Welcome to Straight to the Point. I'm your host, Representative Joe Diorsi. In a world of long-windedness, I'm here to deliver you the capital news in 10 minutes or less. So, let's get straight to the point. So, welcome to the Straight to the Point podcast. I am Representative Joe Diorsi, and I am joined today by one of York County's best, the President and Commissioner, Julie Wheeler. Julie, thanks for joining.
Great to be here, Joe.
So some news has come to my attention, actually a nicely timed release on Earth Day as we celebrate the environment. York County reports lower pollutant levels from water quality testing. And I'm happy to report that previously reported numbers from the 2019, study from DEP, higher pollutant levels than advertised. What's the story?
Yeah, we have a great story to tell. I really appreciate you drawing attention to this. So back in 2019, DEP did release some pollutant levels, mainly focused on three things: sediment, nitrogen, and phosphorus. And so the data that we've now collected for the past 4 years is very different from the modeling data that DEP provided to us. So I'll get straight to the numbers, and then we can talk a little bit about the background on what we did and how we got to these numbers. So in 2019, DEP reported that we had 957 million pounds of sediment. However, through the real-time data we've been collecting, the 4-year average shows that we have approximately 105.7 million pounds of sediment. So a big difference in those numbers. And you know I like data and math. And so that's a 900% difference in the amount that the model.
That's a huge disparity.
Huge disparity. So then we go to nitrogen, and nitrogen, the computer-generated data from DEP showed nearly 12 million pounds of nitrogen in York County waterways. While the real-time data that we've collected, the average is just shy of 7.2 million pounds. So again, big difference. That's roughly 60% different than what the modeling from DEP put together. And the last one is phosphorus, somewhat closer on those numbers than nitrogen and sediment. So DEP reported 446,000, and we're at about 370,000. So not as big a difference, still about 17% difference. So overall, much lower numbers with sediment, phosphorus, and nitrogen.
So in each category, phosphorus, sediment, and nitrogen, some much larger disparities than others, but in each category, DEP in their 2019 report over-reported these numbers.
Exactly, yep. I'm sure the model they developed at the time was what they thought was accurate reflection, but our 4 years worth of data shows that our story's a little bit different.
So obviously that's very significant. You've got the real-time monitoring by way of the U.S. Geological Survey, which you've partnered with at York County, versus the DEP computer-modeled data. Another thing that's very significant about this story, this news, Julie, is this is kind of a first-of-its-kind thing. Can you walk us through how York is kind of a forerunner in this way?
Yeah, thanks, Joe. I've really prided myself on collaboration and innovation, right? We can't do all this alone. We've got limited time, resources, and money. So it's really important for us to find collaborative partners out there. And that's exactly what we did, partnering with the United States Geological Survey for these water quality monitoring stations. But it was also collaboration with our conservation district, our planning commission, and our partners. All of us really care about the quality of our waterways and realize that we all are in this together to ensure that we are conserving and preserving the nutrients in our soil. And yes, this is the first of its kind, not just in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, but across the nation. And I'm really proud of what we've done here because we are on the cutting edge of innovation. But now we have data, right? And we're able to talk with data at our back. So we implemented 6 water quality monitoring stations that cover roughly 80% of the water flow in York County. As you said earlier, they're 24/7, and they monitor a lot of other things besides the nitrogen, sediment, and phosphorus. The one thing now that we have this data that we can dig deeper is now that we have 6, we can look at Muddy Creek Forks versus Goldsboro, and we can see that in some areas of the county, the levels of phosphorus and nitrogen may be a little bit different. So then that allows us to hone in on, well, why might they be higher in this area versus another area? So again, allowing us to ensure that the plans that we're putting in place with our farmers and our ag community are done thoughtfully and purposely.
Yeah, and I've heard, and I'm sure you have as well, the environmental stakeholders are raving about this new model. And I would have to ask you, as you're the president commissioner of York County, but is it your hope that this system of measuring data in our streams and rivers might be replicated in other counties across the Commonwealth?
Yeah, I mean, my challenge to my peers across the Commonwealth and my peers across the nation is do the same thing, right? It is really important that we keep our waterways clean, but if you don't have the data, you can't implement plans to address unless you know what the pollutants are and what the levels are. So I would absolutely encourage folks to do what we did. It wasn't easy, but the great thing now is we have a model in place that certainly we can share with others. So the heavy lifting has already been done by York County and the United States Geological Survey.
Yep. So the top level message from that 2019 DEP report was that York County was one of the worst actors, so to speak, with polluting the Susquehanna River, and of course it filters down into the Chesapeake Bay. We can now scrutinize that message, can we not?
We can do that. I mean, we were noted as the second highest polluter of the Chesapeake Bay. So I think our data indicates that is not the case. We are not the second largest producer of pollutants migrating to the Chesapeake Bay.
Yeah, so in my limited time in office, we sometimes wrestle with some of our departments. The DEP, Environmental Protection, is one of those departments that I've had to wrestle with. Certainly, we appreciate their work with keeping our streams clean and our farmland pristine. But I've heard from constituents, and I'm sure you have as well, Commissioner, complaints and sometimes overreach. This kind of miscalculation from this 2019 report, as we compare it with the real-time data from the U.S. Geological Survey, that kind of gives us a little bit more grounds to question DEP, does it not?
I would say so. Certainly, we have data, right? There is power in data, and 4 years worth of data is a long time. It might be a different conversation you and I are having if we only had 1 year's worth of data, but 4 years is a long enough time to see, fluctuations in the weather, like when we have a big year of storms or you have a tornado go through. So 4 years is a long time period. So level of averages levels out, so to speak.
Yeah. So we have this new way of looking at things, and it's proven more effective. Now that we have a baseline of good, valuable data, we know where to go. So I guess my question is, what are our next steps as York County public servants, but just York County farmers, the York Conservation District, our continued partnership with USGS and DEP? What are our goals for the next 5 years, environmental-wise?
Yeah, so we'll keep monitoring. I think one is, as I mentioned earlier, now that we have those 6 stations, really starting to dig deeper into the data, right? Is nitrogen higher in one area of the county versus another, right? So taking a look at that, and then looking at, if it's higher in one area, do we have a lot of farms or do we have a lot of businesses around there? So really trying to hone in on what else can we do to drive the levels lower. But I think the other thing is continuing to do what we're doing. So for example, in the Conservation District, last year alone, we processed over 360 permit applications and conducted 819 site visits. That's a lot of site visits. Working with farmers to put manure management plans in place, which may not sound sexy and glamorous, but those are all things that we're doing and will continue to do with our farmers out there to ensure that we are being good stewards of the land. So we'll keep doing those things and monitoring the data. And if maybe we see an uptick, which I hope we don't, but if we do and see an uptick, then we can get it addressed in a timely manner.
Yep. So lightning round question here, Commissioner. A lot of people in York County, farmers and just citizens, are concerned about the environment, and this is a wonderful step in the right direction to preserve and protect it. What's your message to York Countyans headed forward in, say, the next 10 years with environmental stewardship?
My message to York Countyans is we've got great leadership in place between our Planning Commission, the Conservation District, Ag Land Preservation, York County Park System, and we will continue to be good stewards of the land and do the appropriate things like the conservation plans for farmers. We'll continue to look and do those things to ensure we are not polluting our waterways. It is something that is very important to me personally, that we have clean waterways for future generations. So when you and I are gone, the waterways in York County should still be clean if we do the right things now and put the right programs and processes in place.
Yep, excellent. She is the President Commissioner of the best county in the Commonwealth, York County, Julie Wheeler. Thanks so much for joining. Straight to the point, Julie.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me.
This has been Straight to the Point. Visit repjod.com/mypodcasts.